guys, Snoopy here. We're looking at Act 2 with Tom. We got some information here for those interested on what we're looking at. For the partisan Act 2, Tom's leading with the 2 of aggression there. We have a partisan seizing law, which is basically the same ability for everybody. He also has a new lore card, which is going to allow him to clear out rage if he meets that condition. And then we have us as the founder, and so we're continuing that Act 2, so that's how we advance through the Commonwealth, which everyone starts as a part of. You can leave by damaging free cities. I can prevent that through one of my new laws called the Armistice. But basically, we're just getting off right off the bat with a fight with Blight here with Tom. So Tom probably should damage a free city here because of the Armistice, where he's going to be stuck. If I do that, another lore card we have, by the way, is Book of Liberation, so we have a way of clearing out rage ourselves. So yeah, we're going off pretty fast pace here. But what matters right now is that we have an aggression card, and we're playing an event, and we're using our shipping agents from last act to get all the fuel. And so what we're doing is we're getting our fleet in position. And so we have a lot of fresh blight on the map, and we want to build more free cities. So we have the ability to build free cities, and so we're using our gatekeepers as well to give him more ships and all the gates. And we're going to use the fuel we just got to consolidate. So we have every ship pretty much on the map now, and we're going to use our fuel from shipping interest to consolidate. So why are we doing this? Well, we are an outlaw, and Tom is the first regent of the Empire. And so he has those purple ships as a resource for him. And we want our half of the map to be very clear and undisturbed, and so we want to start battling Blight. So we're going to move more ships, and we're going to go to that weapon planet, and we're going to fight some Blight. Now, we can cause outrage to seize, which is very important in a 2-player game. We actually are not allowed, because of the partisan ability, to discard an extra card. There we clear Blight over there in Cluster 2, and then we're going to fight in Cluster 3 in the weapon planet. 3 Assault should get it. It's about 50-50 chance. We do clear it out, which is nice. And then we get a ship back. And so one reason we wanted all our ships out is because if we're battling Blight, they're not going to go to trophies, and so we can rebuild our ships quite easily with parade fleets. So with Book of Liberation, we're able to build a free city and then clear out outrage. And so with the weapon planet having 2 slots, we can outrage weapons and then immediately clear it by building a city there. Okay, we cause a crisis, which damages the Blight, and then political intrigues in the court, which is from our fate, and that is going to give each other a favor, which is going to be relevant, especially in a 2-player game. If you can get favors by force, they can be really brutal because they're basically zero-sum. For other cards in the court, we have political intrigue, which just triggered, so that should be buried. We have populist demands in the court. And then we have Loyal Marines, and then we have Diplomat Fiasco. So Diplomat Fiasco is a new card that we saw just for the campaign, but that one can be brutal if you have a lot of captives, or you just have a lot of agents in the court and you have a lot of cards like Tom currently does. He has 5 guild cards and only 7 agents. So we're leading with the 5 here, and we decided to change our minds. Or sorry, Tom is playing the 5. He's going to tax a psionic, and then he can influence twice. The other card we have in the core is Loyal Marines, as we talked about. That's from the partisan fate. And so he's influencing that twice. We're going to take the initiative here with the 6 and surpass. Notice neither of us have declared an ambition yet. Tom led with 2 cards but didn't declare an ambition, and so that's allowing us to to declare ourselves, and then with parade fleets we'll get 2 ships on a free city, which is very nice. So we're behind on points, but not by much. We are behind on court cards. Tom has a lot more cards working for him than we do. He also has Sworn Guardians protecting his stuff. So we tax a Psionic and a Relic ourselves. We take the initiative, so we can do Populous Demands. We could do Diplomatic Fiasco now, but that wouldn't do anything because Tom has exactly 5 and 5. Let's see. So with Partisan here, you do want to be careful. You can go crazy on the outrage. And here we declare Warlord, which makes sense because we have some trophies and we're putting some more ships on Tom's side of the board in Cluster 5 where that free city is, with parade fleets. But with Partisan, you do want to be careful because if you do pivot away from Partisan, you can clear all your outrage. But if you don't pivot, you may be in a bind if you can't trigger People's Hero. So that's something just to keep in mind, that you do want to have a lot of guild cards and just trigger the outrage that you can clear just because you have more than your rivals. Here Tom surpasses with a 3. Doing a lot of admin here. We did contest on Loyal Marines, which was probably a mistake. We just didn't have another really thing to do with our actions. I think we could have maybe done something better. At least tax a weapon, I would say. Yeah, because it'd be nice to have a weapon going forward. But yeah, so Tom's putting more agents there, and because he has a relic, he can definitely secure it on his turn because he has initiative, or he could just use an aggression card. So we're just giving him free captives basically for this, without really anything in return. So in a 2-player game, everything is very zero-sum, so sometimes it is okay to put more agents on, but in this, it just did not make sense to try to contend with Tom on this. The one exception being is if there was a crisis that we knew was going to happen, then that could be really risky for Tom to do this. Tom's going to play the 3. He's going to declare Tyrant. And then you can just use a Relic and secure Loyal Marines. So another great card. We lose 3 of our guys to the captives, but we are going to get them back at the end of the chapter, so that's okay. So Tom's going down quite a bit for his objective, and again, you can try to stop this. We could try to make sure that Tom wasn't winning these ambitions, and there we got skirmishers. So Tom is using Psionic as a weapon, and so he's using 2 pips to build, and then his last pip he's going to try to damage that free city, and this is going to allow him to exit the Commonwealth if he just harms the free city. Just needs to harm it, doesn't even need to destroy it, but he does destroy it, so it does trigger outrage, but he already has it outraged. So he's using his Psionic as weapons to do this. So now he's out of the Commonwealth, and he can't go back. And so we could do our Commonwealth ambition marker, but what that will do is if we lose it and he wins it, he's going to double the points. And so there's not a big reason for us now to do the Commonwealth ambition since he can leave. He's already left. If he was stayed and we did an armistice, then we would be okay, and we could do our ambition just so we both get the same points. So here we're doing Book of Liberation by building a weapon city, so we're seized on weapons and returning it back. So now we kind of made the line. So we're an outlaw. Tom's not in the Commonwealth anymore, so it's Commonwealth versus Empire. And we're going to see Tom use that heavily to his advantage through the council card. So the card where you petition the council and you secure First Regent, and you can decide whether you want a crisis or decide whether you want an edict. And that's going to allow Tom to put a lot of ships on the map. And this is something in a 2-player game, this is something to think about, that you should not let one person control the First Regent when they can choose the policy and basically not pay the tax ever and get all the benefits. All right, so we're rolling, get some blight, we destroy it, and then that's pretty much what we're doing here. We're just clearing out the blight, getting our space, and now Tom's doing an event. And we've also declared Warlord. It looks like we forgot to put the ambition marker on it. But yeah, so we're getting a lot of points for Warlord. Tom's getting some points for Tyrant, and this is how we're slowly clawing back. There is a case to be made that we should build out the rest of our cities instead of just only doing free cities to get a city bonus. But we're getting enough benefit from the free cities that it's okay. So Tom's fighting some blight, and so he's doing enough damage there he's fighting us, not the blight. And so he does enough to get a trophy from us, and then it's going to damage us. So we're kind of in a bind now, and we're tied trophy-wise. But that's okay. Like tying is not the end of the world. And so now we have the initiative, and so it's an edict. So Tom's gonna change the policy. And one thing I forgot to mention was in the summit I changed his starport on the fuel planet in Cluster 4 with my own, since none of his ships were there. So now Tom's gonna do policy of escalation. And he still has a favor from us from the crisis from earlier in the game, so he can do the same thing back or do something else. There is an argument that we could have taken a trophy from him instead. Now we see Cloud Cities is in the court. That's a really strong lore card for us because we can build free cities, more of them in our spaces. So we really want that card, and I think we're going to use our Psionic and Relic to get it, actually. But yeah, we want that starport down there, mostly just as a distraction, not necessarily for a strategic reason, but it removes Tom's presence from there, so he can't easily get ships there. And we have a way through a starport now, and then free cities there to put ships there if needed. So we're taking that, and then we have Council Intrigue, which basically lets you get the Imperial Council card in session, out of session, so you can petition more easily. So we're we realized we didn't. Yeah, we're moving some ships around, and just kind of getting ready for Chapter 2 of Act 2. And so we're influencing Diplomatic Fiasco, just because Tom has so many court cards, we want to be in a position to kind of stop him from that. Alright, so now he's got the initiative by surpassing us. And so this dynamic of left versus right is something that is common in two-player games if you have Outlaw versus Empire. So you have to be mindful that this is just a normal board state. That can happen, it doesn't have to. But blight in the gates is hindering Tom from going in and really hurting us with Empire ships, and also us going to Tom's space. Tom has no cities on the map. He only has a single starport. That was the other reason why we wanted a starport replacement, was that now Tom has one spot. If we can remove it, then all his ships are raidable. So it's a big liability for him to remove his starport. I do think it is worth considering perhaps just taking the trophy instead, just so we could win Warlord, but the points aren't as important in this spot. So we're moving down quite a bit because of how many areas we control with free cities at the end of the chapter, and so we're in a good spot for Chapter 2. And so now we're flipping the ambitions over. Tom has the initiative. We have a hand of cards. And I'm pretty sure we don't keep these. In two-player, you can mulligan if you don't have the initiative. And so we do. And so now we don't have an event card. So there's one less event in the game for this round. and we feel pretty good because we have a lot of high cards. In the game, I took a note of what cards I discarded in this commentary. I'm not going to worry about that. So Tom's playing the 6, and he's going to secure Populous Demands. So that's going to allow him to double declare possibly. So he could declare Empath and then secure to declare Empath again. Let's see what he does. So he's not going to declare, but he's going to use that just to get Empath. So he's not double declaring Empath. And then he's going to declare the council card. So now he may call a summit at the end of this play of cards. If he's a regent, he can do those things. So this is where Tom is going to maximize his ability. So he doesn't have a lot of ways to get ships on the board. But now he can use the Empire ships and get a lot of them on the board. And so that's going to trigger. We're pivoting. And we're seizing the initiative, which is important here because I think we want to declare a warlord perhaps, but I'm not quite sure. Or maybe we want to leave with our aggression card. And so Tom, even though we seized the initiative, Tom is the one who still would get to declare a summit if he wants, because he's the one who secured the council card. And so he can then return our favor if he wants, or can save it. And so he can leave it undecided or can put it back in session. So if you are going to do this strategy, you do, Imperial Council decided, and you flip it back to in session, so that you can constantly spam it by influencing it, securing it, so you can trigger the edicts or trigger crises if that's more beneficial to you. And so basically what we would need to do is we would need to secure ourselves and keep it on the decided side so that Tom couldn't keep doing this. So Tom is returning the favor back, so he's replacing back our starport with his own starport. This, I think, is a mistake in that he doesn't have a lot of ships, and because of his imperial ability, he cannot place ships there because the Empire doesn't control it. So he can do it in the gate, he can do it in the free city, but it's kind of messy. And so he has to put them both together, and so he decides to put them both in cluster 1, which is fine. That's where he already has his starport from earlier and a ship there and a starport there. So now we have the initiative, so we're going to declare, or not going to declare. I can't remember. I think we don't declare. We just tax 3 times. So you get a material, a psionic, and we can do a relic. But the court is now filled with just 3 Vox cards, and we get weapons. That makes sense. So we're kind of in a bind. So this is very common in 2-player games where you have just 3 court cards instead of 4. And here we see Tom play an event. So Tom's going to seize the initiative back with his partisan ability. And but the court in the middle, Act 2 and even Act 3 especially, can just fill with Vox cards that no one really wants. And that can be hard. And so because they just bury themselves, they often are not discarded or removed. They're just constantly in the deck, and you just get flooded with cards. As an aside, if you have the Believer in the game and the Believer fails, all the action cards that were not replaced into the action deck are now in the court, and so that's even more bloat in the court deck. And so the court can be really tough to manage in Acts 2 and Acts 3 just because of all the Vox cards that may or may not be useful for what you're trying to do. All right, so Tom now is reloaded on resources, and we're now on the events side, so he gets lucky and gets the edict, which is what he wanted. A crisis wouldn't have been great for us, but would have been better than an edict. So now Tom's able to put 2 more ships down. And so this is how he's rebuilding his fleet. So we have 2 more ships we can put out, but we're kind of scattered, and we're not all in the same place, but Tom now can consolidate all his Imperial ships. Now, his issue is he's not the admiral, so he can't move them very easily. And so he's kind of putting them as like a roadblock or a stop for us. So now he's playing the 5. He's declaring Keeper. So we're letting him kind of dictate this chapter. And as you may have guessed, that we're kind of letting him do this because we have a weapons. So now Tom is going down quite a bit because he's winning on Relic. And so he just needs 2 more to go down. So what do you do here? Well, we can let Tom kind of do this. So he uses Psionic and Relic to secure the council again. So we're going to get 2 more Imperial ships. It's not great. He's not letting us get away with a lot of stuff, but what we are doing now is we're setting up to do a big raid. And so when you're in a bind like this, we're behind on points, we're behind on board position. So we're going to move ships there. We're going to move 2 more ships in. So now we have 4 ships total. And we're moving to the gate. And then we're going to lead with the 2 mobilization with a weapon. And that is going to allow us to move in and raid and cluster for the fuel starport. So now Thomas has decided what he wants to do. He can put more ships there, but he can't move them because he doesn't have his own ship there. And so he's putting them in the Relic City planet, which is fine. But now we have a weapon and the 2 mobilizations. So we put that down. We also have a Psionic if we wanted to, so we can move with a Psionic. We are declaring Tycoon. And so that's going to allow us to get 2 more ships if we want them somewhere. There's a case to maybe have done this differently, but I think this is fine. We don't have to put the 2 ships out, so we don't. We just move our fleet over. We could repair with the material first. That would make sense, possibly. But yeah, we move in, and then we're going to do a big raid. So 4 raid dice. And so with 4 raid dice, you're hoping for 5 keys. That could get us quite a few things. There's Sworn Guardians, but we get really lucky. So we get 2, 3, 4 keys. So we get 4 keys. We could have gotten 3 keys. That would have been really bad. So we get rid of Sworn Guardians. That goes on the bottom, but I think we miss it. And so now we have 3 more keys. So we can take Silver Tongues, which is really big, and we can take Galactic Bards. And so now we flip the script. So we have another raid we can do. So we damaged our stuff, and so we're going to do 1 more raid. So this is our 3rd pip, and we roll crazy. So we get 7 keys on 4 dice. This is crazy. So we got 4 keys the first time, used them all. Now we have 7 keys this time. So this is 11 keys in 2 battles. So incredibly lucky. And we only gave him 1 trophy. So we take everything. So he only has his protected guild card. And the starport's not even destroyed. Now we destroy this here. There's not a great reason to do this. Except, there's just not a great reason to do this. I think we were overthinking the situation and we didn't want ships there to be targeted, but there's no great reason to do that. So Tom repairs, or he builds a gate starport. So he had gate ports for a while, but hadn't used it, and now he's realizing now is the time. He has to establish his half of the map with these gate ports, which are going to take captives if we move through them. And so he can't rely on blight. He can still run the Empire, but now he's going to have these gate ports, which are going to be very, very oppressive going into Act 3. So we flipped the script. We're going to win all 3 ambitions. We could have built our stuff, but he moves in and just destroys our 1 ship to get us out of there. And he gets it. And so now 4 of our ships are in trophy boxes, and we're not going to get them back until the end of this act. But we do take the initiative here. We can clear, we can secure a card. And we can move around. We can do a fight. So we think about moving over to the gate, but then we realize it's going to give up a captive, which we don't want at the time. I think that's fine. If we destroy that starport, it's worth it. So I think that was a mistake. I think we don't want to do that. So what we do is we fight the Imperial ship because he's ruling the free city, and we don't want the Empire to rule. And so we kamikaze our ship, so we lose a ship, and we damage the Empire, so that we're going to do really well in our objective. And so now we're playing the 6 admin. We're not declaring, and so it's going to be attacks and then attacks, and so we're going to win all the objectives, which is going to stop Tom from going down on his objective. But Tom should clear it anyway, regardless of what we do in Chapter 3. And so we use Loyal Marines here to put 3 more ships. And I understand why we do this, because we want to get a bigger presence. But Loyal Marines is so good and so strong. Like, Tom's not in a good spot to raid us anywhere. And so it's better just perhaps wait till Act 3 to see what the situation is, and then decide to get those 3 ships, or just be able to spin weapons. Weapons outrage is something that definitely can still happen. And yes, we can clear it, but there's no weapon building slots available. We do have cloud cities, but that's going to take us having a weapon, spending the weapon to build a weapon city. So there's a lot of reasons to keep Loyal Marines. So we get a bunch of power here from winning the ambitions. And then we do our objective next. And so, so we're going down, and we're not quite clear, but we should clear it in Chapter 3. And so now we're kind of sitting in a great spot. Now, Chapter 3 here, we have 2 event cards. It's not great. And I think we use Silver Tongues, or maybe we save it. We use it now. We take Tom's Psionic, which is just brutal. This is why Arcs can be a very mean game. So we take the one thing we can take just to cripple him. Just make sure he cannot do too much. And again, this is Act 2. This is not for the win of the game. This is just getting a better position. I think because we're not easily rated, it makes more sense to not do this, just to be patient. And that's what Arcs ultimately is. It's a game of patience, of knowing timing, of when to strike. And so waiting on Loyal Marines, waiting on Silver Tongues was probably a much superior move than what we did in the game, even though what we did was fun and it was helpful and good to do. I think it was better to wait. And you could even make the same argument with the favors we got in Act 2. You keep them in Act 3 if you keep your fate. If you know you're going to succeed, then just keep the favors. Just use them in Act 3, especially in a 2-player game when you don't easily get favors. Because if they pivot to a C fate, then that's maybe the only way you prevent them from winning. So we see Tom's using council intrigue, so he's going to get back and petition the council, make it back in session, then secure the council, and then get more Imperial ships and continue on. So we then go on to the next card. And so we want Tom to have the initiative because we do have these 2 event cards. and it may be tough for us to do this. And so we have Empath declared, and Tom's just getting his Psionic and Relic, it looks like, or 2 Psionics. Yeah, he's not sure. Yeah, Psionic and Relics, and this is just going to allow him to secure whenever, and then possibly just use the Psionic for something else. So now Tom has cleared his objective, so he can continue for Partisan Act 3 if he wishes. And we're probably going to do the same. He's not in a great position to stop us from controlling these free cities. And so here we're kind of deciding what we want to do here. We can take a captive from Tom, and so we do. And so going into Act 3 with 2 captives would have been really strong, and how we have Loyal Pilots, which is again from the Partisan Fate. Loyal Pilots is another strong card. We have 2 material, 2 psionic in our cargo hold. We don't have any ships to build. We could build out our last 2 cities if we moved somewhere else. There's just a lot of blight where we are. Tom's just done a better job than us of keeping the blight clear, even though like we've done good work eliminating some blight. There's just a lot of blight still on our half of the map. So we're using this to take Tom's Psionic at the summit from the event. So we're just taking everything as we can. So we're not being patient at all. We're basically just strangling Tom to keep him where he is behind us. But this is Act 2. This is only going to propel him to consider a sea fate. If we don't help Tom have a better board position, then the points ultimately are not what's going to matter. And so this is where you can go awry in Act 2, whether it's a 2-player game, 3-player game, 4-player game, where you just keep pinning someone down over and over. You don't let them back in the game. You take everything you can from them. That can come back to bite you, because it's just going to propel them to do something more drastic like a sea fate, which is going to give them a lot more tools. Now, they could still do the sea fate regardless, and that's fair to say. But I do think, like, looking at this Act 2, just reflecting on it, I was far too aggressive and not patient enough with the tools and resources and benefits I got in the game. Here we have the 3 admin card played. We have a relic spent to secure Loyal Pilots. Then we have Loyal Keepers, which is another great card. And so if we can, we want to get that as well. So the tables have flipped. If you remember at the beginning of this Act 2, Tom had all the guild cards, and we had very little. Now we are the ones who are steamrolling and getting a really, really good guild card position. And Tom is the one with no cities, only his 1 protected guild card, and that's it. So we're feeling pretty good. But just imagine if we hadn't used Loyal Marines, if we hadn't used Silver Tongues yet, we could have still been in a far better position going into Act 3. And Tom would have been stronger. Tom would have had more resources available, but I would have liked our position more if we had just been more patient. Here Tom is building a starport. He's securing the council. He's going to get more Imperial ships out. And so we're going to have a lot of Imperial ships to deal with in Act 3, for better or worse. And so now we're clearing the court because of the 2-player mode when you secure the council. And mining interest shows up. And so that's a big bummer for us because we wanted Loyal Keepers far more than mining interest. But mining interest could be strong too. So there we see the ships. And this is just because Tom is constantly triggering the council card. So Tom has the initiative. We have 3 cards left in this chapter. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you try to focus on. Do you focus on board position? Do you focus on points? It's just going to be so hard to do things in Act 3 if I have all these cities out, have all this board presence, have all these resources. It's just going to be really tough. Here we play an event just to repair some stuff. We're hoping for a crisis, not another edict. And we do a material as a fuel to move over, and then we build a fuel-free city. So it's, yeah, I don't know about this. We do get another edict, and so the last 2 Imperial ships are going to be on the map. So we do have a problem. And then Blight Limbs is now there, so that could be a card we want to secure just to clear a blight. Clear blight in a sector would be great for us, especially cluster 1. That would be really awesome. All right, so now it's Tom's lead, and so we could do a Psionic Relic to do this, but he does a construction card, so we can't do Psionic Relic to secure that. So he's going to build a ship, another ship, and then 1 more ship. So now, combined, he has far more ships than we do, between his ships and the purple ships from the Empire. We are going to have to pivot, and then we can seize, and this is where we make a mistake. It may not be a mistake. So we use a material as a fuel to move over, and then we're going to build another city. So we could have outraged material there and then seized. But we don't. And so now Tom's going to move over his ships. And so I didn't talk about this earlier when this happened, but we did outrage weapons to seize earlier. And as I mentioned, weapons doesn't have an open slot for us to build. We do have cloud cities, but we need weapons to do that. And so because we don't have a tax card, we don't tax weapons to end this act. And so we're going to have to start Act 3 if we want to clear weapon outrage by taxing a weapon and then using it to build. And so that's going to be some work. And if we had just not gotten rid of Oil Marines, this wouldn't be an issue. But we go ahead and play the 4 aggression. We move ships over and call it a day. We feel really good at our points. We don't even declare. We could have declared Warlord again. But that wouldn't have helped us, I guess. All right, so that's Act 2 of this campaign. So Tom is at 25 points. We're going to end up at about 36. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was fun. Campaign is definitely not my strongest suit so far in ARCs, but it's definitely a lot of fun, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.